This is Shining Resonance Refrain, which is a JRPG. It is a remastered effort from a game that originally released on PlayStation 3. Years later, we're now available to play it on basically all the modern platforms. I'm playing it on Xbox One X, which brings us up to a 4K resolution, which is great. So this game includes basically all of the DLC, which was just a crazy amount. 150 pieces of DLC from PlayStation 3 are included in this remaster, and that includes 2 modes from which you get to choose from at the beginning of the game. So first off, we have the regular mode, which is just the traditional story, which is what I did, and a second mode that adds 2 new party members, Excella and Genius. They were available in the last game, but they weren't playable characters. But now that they're in this remaster, so you can play that one. It's encouraged you to play the first version, the traditional one, before playing the second one. So this is a very hard game. I've read about it a bit online to kind of get other opinions and stuff, but I don't care what they say, this is a very, very difficult JRPG. It's insanely hard. Seriously. Now, how you manage your team kind of determines how much of a challenge you're going to get when you're playing, but I did find this very hard. To me, it comes down to a game where you really have to grind out killing every little enemy you come across in order to sort of be strong enough to take on things. That's just my experience of it, where the majority of my gameplay hasn't been working through a narrative. It's instead been grinding outside monsters you find in the wilderness. I don't like that in my games. That is a personal opinion. That doesn't take away from the quality, though, of this game, which is actually pretty good. If you like JRPGs, this is really well done. It's lengthy, it's expansive, there's lots to do. I'm at the point where you kind of take a lot of side quests, if you'd like. We have a main mission where we're going to head over there because we're doing a patrol. And we're going to jump into the narrative a bit. This is the main sort of hub area, like the castle segment, where you kind of meet people, you talk to folks. Everyone in here, all the characters have like a little bit of a track that you can chat with them about. There's lots of little random items everywhere and so forth like that. So yeah, this was a port that actually took a long time to release. Apparently it was planned a lot earlier, and then it was expanded upon for platforms, and now we finally have it. So it's kind of interesting, but it does feel a little bit aged in that regard. So it follows a boy that is a pop idol in the land. He kind of unleashes a dragon during his battles, and he's got 2 backup singers that you can see right here. And we have a main quest map that you kind of see where things are going. I find it a little bit hard to find places sometimes, but once you get the hang of it, you don't have too much of an issue. Yeah, you can set your party leader, who you're playing as, and so forth. But I was kidding about the story. It actually follows some guy that's like got a dragon stuck in him, and you get rescued from a cave by these 2 ladies. And I'm just trying to explain why I have them dressed up like they're dressed up. There's lots of different costumes and so forth, but you get what I'm saying. So you level them up, you give them traits, you give them abilities. This is fairly early on. This is like a few hours into the game, this particular save point. I definitely suggest having multiple saves, saving often, and also kind of being ready for death, because when you die you go back to the main menu, or you keep fighting in the same area again. It doesn't really help you out if something's too powerful. You have a bunch of items. A large portion of the game is about sort of your force abilities. You have to balance these. You can customize them per character. There's also the aspects section, which is, again, what I was mentioning as a big part of this. You have these aspects that you sort of unlock, different kinds of nature and so forth. You put these on your characters, and they give you bonuses to actually help out, which is a big deal. You got a bond diagram, you got a dictionary, and ooh, mystery. But you get what I'm saying. So we're going to go in, and we're going to jump into the combat. Oh, this is a good point. So there's like dialogue things that show up on the left, and there are romantic options too when you are kind of chilling around the campfire, because the campfire will help everybody heal up and so forth. So this is a strategic game. These enemies are easy, so we might kill them too fast for me to even elaborate on that. So you've got main abilities, you've got the option to block, and you've got commands, fence, act freely. There's also, this option too. Kind of target things, get your group commanded. I do find this a little bit harder to get your team to do things. I've seen some online videos of this where like people are like perfectly and masterfully kind of managing their squad, like defending and blocking everything. I'm just not that fancy for these types of games. So it is, it's like a real-time sort of strategy battle title in that regard. I've seen it's been compared to the Tales games, and I would say it kind of plays like Tales of Berseria, which is kind of my, I don't want to say my first entry into this type of game, but it was my favorite entry so far. Love that game. Again, not a huge fan of how this one's set up, but it does look fairly impressive visually. I mean, I don't think it's aged perfectly well, but it's got nice music. The characters are responsive. There's fully voiced cutscene cinematics and segments and so forth. Whoa, that guy looks tough. No. Don't want to fight that thing. And I mean, it runs fast, it loads quickly, there's lots of enemies to battle. And it's sort of an expansive world that you get to fight within, lots of different areas. And a lengthy campaign over a bunch of chapters with bosses. You're fighting against this other, I guess, evil princess of sorts. Here are the kind of powers I was mentioning earlier. You have the option to heal your teammates. Don't really need it, but we're going to do it anyways. I guess I can't. Oh, there we go. And you can see they're kind of healed up. This one drops like a rock thing. And every character has this. The boy over there, he can become like a dragon for segments. So I guess I'll show that up after this one. Breaks are moments where kind of combat goes your way really well. Deal massive amounts of damage. You can be startled, and so forth. Kind of situations where you have an advantage or you don't have a disadvantage. When you have a disadvantage, you kind of get like stuck and you can't move, which is annoying. Then you're able to move after a while, after you've already been wailed on. Party. There we go. When you have an advantage, you get like, you just have an advantage over them and so forth. Yeah, you kind of hold. Oh, there we go. And then he like summons his dragon thing, and the story follows the dragon being inside of him or whatever. Yeah. But the fight's kind of over, so it was pointless to do the dragon thing, but neat all the same. And yeah, that's kind of it. And you go and you do quests, and I mean, it's expansive, but I do personally find this to be a very difficult game. There's lots of dialogue involved. Let's get ready for that. And it's a lot about balancing and dealing with your party, swapping your characters, using their strengths. And I think this is a good point to showcase the game because it doesn't really spoil anything. I don't think. I've just given a general outline of what's going on in this. You have a stamina bar too, as you can see on the bottom. Yeah, I guess we'll have to do this. You see how it's being depleted? Sometimes you have to like wait a second and it'll heal up again. And then you're good to go. But yeah, the action actually looks pretty cool. I find some of the boss battles going a little bit too long. Like really long boss battles, like reminds me of Lost Planet in that regard, but pacing wise it keeps things going pretty well. And I've had a mix of a good time here. Like, I'm somebody that really enjoys just doing the story of a game. I don't want to sit there and like fight creatures all the time. I don't care. I find that like busy work that's just pointless. And I've got like better things to do with my time, but all to their own. It is, again, I find it really difficult. I think other people will find it difficult. Um, but keeping that out of it, I do think it is a well-crafted game. There's a lot of story here, interesting characters. They have a lot of problems, and they've got some cool sort of, you know, character moments throughout, like the campfires or chatting with people, and you get that same classic JRPG sense of like everything's very dramatic, and you know, the mission's so important, everything like that. But there's lots of costumes in that, so you can have fun in that regard. It's a very complete package. If you somehow manage to play the original, even though it was like Japan only, I guess you might want to revisit it. If you're new to it, it depends. Do you like JRPGs? Personally, I'm like hit or miss on them, but I know some people are hardcore, and you're just gonna really enjoy the challenge out of this one. But if you're not looking for something too hard and you just want a story to run through, I don't think this one is quite that.